I'm sitting in a crowded coffee shop, and there's 5 minutes left in one of the most important interviews of my life. Across from me, my Harvard interviewer leans back. Now, one final question, she says. What do you like to do for fun? Immediately an answer springs to mind. You see, I have a bit of a secret identity. By day, I'm a hyper-motivated high school senior, balancing 5 AP classes with a very long list of very serious extracurriculars. But by night, I am a wannabe beauty guru, carefully following YouTube tutorials for old Hollywood glam makeup looks and posting the results to my Tumblr page. But just as soon as the answer comes to mind, I suppress it. There is no way I am telling this Harvard alum that I spend my free time perfecting a rose gold ombre smoky eye. Not after I've worked so hard to establish myself as serious, driven, intellectual. Not after I've seen countless tweets mocking the basic girl who drinks pumpkin spice lattes, loves a Lululemon set, and cares more about her shade of lip gloss than she cares about science or math. So I respond, I like to read fiction. I don't say I mean romance novels about fairies. Years later, I'd realize there was a reason I censored myself in that interview. And there's millions of girls who censor themselves every single day. That's because as a society, when we talk about the interests associated with teen girls, we often use language that's tinged with negative connotations. We call Taylor Swift overrated. We brand pumpkin spice lattes as basic. And we think of TikTok's makeup and beauty influencers as shallow. But Taylor Swift's Eras Tour generated $4.6 billion in consumer spending in the US alone. The pumpkin spice economy is valued at $500 million. And in 2023, McKinsey valued the influencer marketing economy at $21 billion. There is a gap between the huge cultural value that teen girls create and the limited social capital they have historically held. It's time to reconcile that gap and reframe the narrative. It's time to respect teen girls as the powerful tastemakers they are. Delegitimizing feminine interests is not a new thing. Before the Beatles were celebrated as one of the greatest bands of all time, their earliest fans were called dull, vacant, and the least fortunate of their generation. Those early fans, as you can probably guess, were almost exclusively teen girls. So why is it that we're so prone to look down on girls and their interests? Well, there's 2 layers to this. The first is that it's just a human tendency to look down on youth, period. It's called the kids these days effect. And it's the concept that we view each new generation as a little less intelligent, a little more morally corrupt, and just a bit worse compared to the one that came before it. From congressional hearings trying to prevent youth from listening to that dirty rock and roll, to boomers trying to get millennials to just stop eating avocado toast, older generations tend to view the things youth love with just a twinge of distaste. And then there's our problem with emotional women. Since the days of the ancient Greeks, emotional women have been coded as uncontrollable and dangerous. Even Plato elaborated on a theory to explain so-called female madness. The uterus could spontaneously dislodge and start roaming all around the body, causing emotional imbalances and outbursts. This supposed condition remained a diagnosable disease, hysteria, that went through many iterations until it was finally removed from the medical books in 1980. Okay, so what does this all have to do with Taylor Swift? Well, it shows up in how we interpret expressions of enjoyment in women and girls. Let's take a look at Taylor's Eras Tour. Swifties show up in coordinated outfits that represent their enthusiasm for a given Taylor Swift album or era. They have pre-planned loud chants, and they know every last detail about Taylor, from her favorite number, 13, to her cats' names, Meredith Grey, Benjamin Button, and Olivia Benson. Now, let's contrast this with sports fans. Coordinated outfits? That sounds like a jersey, so check. Pre-planned loud chants? I think "Let's Go Warriors" qualifies, so check again. And well-versed on the details? Okay, ask any NFL fan which 6th-round draft pick has won 7 Super Bowls, and see how quickly they come up with an answer. Sports fans exhibit much of the same behaviors we see displayed by young female fans across genres, but they don't face that same ridicule. Sociological research has found that when men express enthusiasm, it's read as passion. But when women express enthusiasm, it's read as hysterical. Of course, none of the interests we've talked about today are exclusive to women, and they're not exclusive to youth either. Regardless of gender or generation, anyone can be a Swiftie and/or a sports fan. No interest is inherently gendered or aged. But a common denominator is that the interests we've talked about today are often associated with teen girls through social conditioning and broader cultural cues. And that's part of the reason why these interests have been consistently delegitimized throughout history. As a society, we have a troubling track record of punishing teen girls for the crime of being young and girly. And we punish them for this at a critically important developmental point. The American Psychological Association reports that from ages 8 to 11, girls display strong confidence and speak their minds freely. But as girls enter their teenage years, they face increasingly gendered expectations, and they experience a sharp drop in self-esteem. When we react negatively to their expressions of excitement for girly interests, we reinforce a tendency to second guess. We push them to rein it in, to think again, to censor themselves, like I did with that interviewer from Harvard. Down the line, this leads to diminished self-confidence and increased self-doubt. But if we reframe this narrative and encourage girls to authentically invest in their interests, we can positively impact their development. Research has found that interest-based communities help promote psychological well-being in teens by providing them with a deep sense of belonging. This requires us to start discussing girly interests with a sense of respect. In doing so, we can send a powerful signal to girls. The things you love are valid and important, and you are encouraged to authentically express them without shame. But that's not all. We need to go a step further and start acknowledging the power of those interests and the power of the girls who champion them. The things teen girls love are mainstream not because they're naturally mass market. They're mainstream because teen girls consistently push their passions into pop culture through sheer dedication. Teen girls command cultural capital. They shape trends, industries, and tastes. They decide what becomes popular. They define the mainstream. After all, let's remember, they pushed Twilight to blockbuster status, with the movies alone grossing over $5 billion worldwide. They popularized makeup brands like Rare Beauty to skyrocketing success, helping to triple its revenue between 2022 and 2023. And they played a fundamental role in the rise of user-generated creative platforms like Wattpad, turning One Direction fanfiction into movies you can now stream on Netflix. So the next time a teen girl tells you about her new favorite song or a movie she just can't stop rewatching, listen with respect, because she deserves it. And listen closely, because it is highly likely she is cluing you in to a major new cultural and economic phenomenon. And finally, pay closer attention to the language you use when discussing interests typically associated with young women. The next time you put on some Taylor Swift, don't call her your guilty pleasure. There is power in being a Swiftie, just like there was power in perfecting a rose gold ombre smoky eye.